Hello and welcome. As a hotel AI expert, I've spent years supporting modern hospitality operations, and I'm thrilled to welcome all students of Europe Hotel School to your online learning journey. In my experience, I've seen countless projects succeed or, well, fail based on one key factor: the plan. So today, we're going to break down one of the most powerful planning tools in our entire industry, the Master Critical Path for Food and Beverage Operations.
Launching a new restaurant or dining concept is just a massive undertaking, and as this quote says, the stakes are incredibly high. Without a clear timeline, things can spiral into chaos really fast. We're talking about your vision, your capital, and your reputation all being on the line. A solid plan is, quite literally, the difference between a smooth opening and a complete disaster.
So, how do we stop that chaos from ever starting? Well, in this explainer, we're going to walk through a really structured approach. We'll start by looking at the problem, then I'll introduce you to the solution, we'll break down its key parts, see how it works in the real world, and then finally, we'll talk about how you manage the whole process to guarantee success.
Okay, let's dive right in. When we talk about chaos, we're not just being dramatic. We are talking about real, tangible, financial consequences. Budget overruns? They happen when big decisions get rushed. And those costly delays? That's what happens when one team is just sitting around waiting for another with no idea what's going on. This isn't just messy, it's a direct threat to your profitability before you even open the doors.
So what's the antidote to this chaos? It's a professional tool called the Master Critical Path Timeline. Now, this is not just a to-do list, okay? Think of it as the complete blueprint for your entire pre-opening. It's designed specifically to bring order and control to what can be a very complex operation.
So let's get a formal definition on the table. The Master Critical Path is a schedule that tracks, well, everything. And the two key words I really want you to remember here are detailed and dynamic. Detailed means absolutely nothing is left to chance. And dynamic means it's a living, breathing document that has to adapt to reality, all the way from the very beginning of the project, which is often a year out, right up to the grand opening. Now, to make a huge project like this manageable, you can't just have one long list. So the timeline is organized into these logical phases, and we call them work breakdown structures, or WBS for short. You can see the main ones here. By grouping tasks into big buckets like design, procurement, and HR, you can assign ownership and track progress in a much more organized way. All right, to really master this whole concept, you've got to understand its two fundamental building blocks. These are milestones, which mark your key achievements, and dependencies, which are the things that actually dictate the flow of the entire project. First up, a milestone. Now, this isn't just any old completed task. It's a major achievement that basically unlocks the next phase of work. A classic example is final menu approved. It's a huge decision point. It signals that the culinary direction is locked in, and now all the related tasks, like ordering ingredients or programming the cash registers, can begin with confidence.
And now we get to dependencies. And I'm going to say it, this is, without a doubt, the most crucial concept you need to grasp. It's the simple, unbreakable rule that task B cannot start until task A is completely finished. This logical chain of events forms the absolute backbone of your entire timeline.
Here's a perfect real-world example. Think about it. You absolutely cannot program your point-of-sale system, that's your task B, until the final menu matrix with all the items and all the prices is complete. That's task A. See? One is completely dependent on the other. The real trick is identifying all of these connections across the entire project. So, here's the big reveal. When you map out all of these dependencies, you're going to find one single sequence of tasks that is longer than any other chain. That longest chain is your critical path. It defines the absolute minimum time your project is going to take. And here's the kicker: any delay to any single task on this path will directly delay your opening date, period. Okay, let's move away from the theory and see how this plays out in the real world, because understanding this domino effect is absolutely essential. A tiny little delay early on can create a massive, super expensive problem months down the line if it happens to be on that critical path. Let's look at some early stage items. Just look at the timing here. Key leadership appointments have to happen as far as 9 months out. And you might ask, why? Well, because you need the executive chef to finalize the menus, which in turn dictates what kitchen equipment you need, which then has to be ordered months in advance. It's all connected. These are all critical dependencies.
And here is a classic textbook example of that domino effect. Let's say there's a delay in getting a building permit. That's a task in the design phase. Well, that immediately stops construction from starting. That pushes back when the kitchen equipment can be installed, which in turn delays when the staff can be trained in that new kitchen, which ultimately pushes back your grand opening. One little permit delay can easily cost you weeks, maybe even months. So look, having this beautiful, detailed plan is amazing, but it's only half the battle. Real success comes from active, disciplined management of that plan. It takes the right tools, it takes the right people, and it takes a relentless commitment to staying on track. And you have to remember, this is a team sport. The critical path serves as the single source of truth for every single one of your key stakeholders. Everyone from the owners who are providing the money to the department heads who are executing the vision, they all have to be aligned, transparent, and completely accountable to that timeline.
And this is how the pros manage it. First, the plan lives on a collaborative platform, something like Asana or Microsoft Project, so everybody has access to it 24/7. Second, you have a weekly meeting dedicated only to reviewing progress against that path. Third, in that meeting, you identify any task that's slipping. And fourth, you immediately implement and document corrective actions to get right back on schedule. It's a cycle.
Ultimately, this whole process is so much more than just a project management tool. Mastering this kind of discipline, well, it's a hallmark of professional management. It shows that you're treating an F&B opening not like some creative whim, but as the strategic, high-stakes business project that it truly is. So I'll leave you with this question to think about as you move forward in your studies and, of course, in your careers. This type of strategic, step-by-step thinking, it really applies to everything you're going to do in this industry. So ask yourself, what's the first critical dependency on your own personal path to success?